This is the part 2 of cell, and we are going to discuss the last type of cells that we mentioned. We said we have three types of cells or organisms based on the nucleus they are having. We said we have prokaryotic cell, we have eukaryotic cells, and we have eukaryotic cells. We have discussed eukaryotic cells, we have discussed prokaryotic cells, and now we have eukaryotic cells. That is what we are going to discuss. So the U means true, and karyotic is talking about the nucleus. So in this case, these cells are having true nucleus. They have a membrane bounded nucleus, not like in the prokaryotic. They were having the nuclear material, but the nuclear material was not having a nuclear membrane. The nuclear material was just within the cytoplasm floating. Also, the other organelles are membrane bounded. For example, the mitochondrion, chloroplast, lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum. These organelles are membrane bounded. Some are having one membrane, while some are having two membranes. Those having two membranes, for example, we have the nucleus is having two membranes. The mitochondrion is having two membranes. Chloroplast is having two membranes. We have some that are having just one membrane. Example, ribosome, lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus. These are having just a single membrane surrounding them. Before we proceed further to talk about the organelles that are found in eukaryotic cells, let's try to define first what is an organelle. An organelle is a small membranous structure found within the cytoplasm that perform specific function. Based on this definition, the organelles we say they are small membranous structure. That means they have membrane bounding them and they are found within the cytoplasm. This one is very important because in some cases when they ask students to give five organelles and their function, some students will state the cell wall and cell membrane as an organelle. The cell wall, the cell membrane, they are not an organelle because they are not found within the cytoplasm as we have it in this definition that they are found within the cytoplasm. So within the cytoplasm, you have the mitochondrion, you have chloroplast, you have nucleus, you have ribosome, you have endoplasmic reticulum, you have Golgi apparatus, you have chloroplast as in the case of plants, etc. that perform specific function. So in here on this slide, we have the structure of a plant cell, we have the structure of an animal cell. You can pause this video and learn how to label it correctly before you move to the next slide. Now let's talk about the components of the structure of plant cell. We are going to discuss the non-organelles first. That is the cell wall and the cell membrane. As we said, the cell wall and cell membrane, they are not organelle. We are going to start from there before we talk about the organelles. The cell wall, it is found only in plant cell. If we are discussing only about plant cell and animal cell, you can state this one. But we have other organisms that are having cell wall. In the case of bacteria, they are having cell wall. In the case of fungi, they are having cell wall. But the composition of the cell wall, it differs with what we have in plants. In plant, the cell wall is made up of cellulose. And bacteria, the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. In fungi, the cell wall is made up of chitin. So the function of the cell wall is that it supports, protects, and gives shape to the cell, just like what we have discussed in the case of prokaryotic organism. They have the same function here. The cell wall in plants or in any other organism, they support, protect, and gives shape to the cell. That is their function. The cell wall, it is freely permeable. That means it allows substances to pass through it. It doesn't select. Next we have is the cell membrane. The cell membrane, it is made up of phospholipid bilayer. That means we have one phospholipid at the upper part, we have one phospholipid at the bottom. That's why we say phospholipid bilayers, two layers. It also consists of protein and carbohydrates that are being embedded within this phospholipid bilayer. The cell membrane, it functions as a semi-permeable membrane. That means not all substances will be allowed to pass through it. Some will be selected to pass, some will not be allowed to pass based on the demand of the plant cell. It also protects the protoplasm. Mathematically, the protoplasm, it consists of the cytoplasm and its contents plus the nucleus. It is the living part of the cell, as we talk about it in cell theory. Now let's talk about the differences between the cell wall and cell membrane. So based on their composition, what are they made up of? The cell wall, it is made up of cellulose. The cell membrane, it is made up of phospholipid bilayer, protein, and carbohydrates. Also, whether they can allow substances to pass through or they are selective, we have the cell wall that is freely permeable membrane. That means it can allow all substances to pass through. While the cell membrane, it is semi-permeable membrane. That means not all substances will be allowed to pass through. And based on whether they are rigid or they are flexible, the cell wall, it is rigid in nature, while the cell membrane, it is flexible in nature. Now let's talk about the organelles and their function. As we said, the organelles are small membrane-bounded structures found within the cytoplasm that performs specific functions. One we have here on this slide is the centrolist. The centrolist, they form spindle fiber during cell division. When the cell want to divide, whether in mitosis or in meiosis, it is the centrolist that will form the spindle fiber. This spindle fiber will help the chromosome to align at the center or to move towards the pole, and it can only be seen in animal cells. And we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm, it is made up of 90% of water. It holds the organelles in place. The nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum, the lysosome, they are being held in place by the cytoplasm. These cytoplasms are what we call the cytoplasmic strand that help to hold these organelles in position. It provides the site for chemical reaction or the chemical reactions that is happening within the plant or within the animal cell. They are happening within the cytoplasm. And next we have the endoplasmic reticulum, which is a network of sac-like tubules with a common cytoplasm. So in here, just like we said, it is a network. That means not one, we have many of them, and they resemble like a stack. That means they have an hole in it. Or tubes also can also mean they have an hole in it with a common cytoplasm. In here, the cytoplasm are not being differentiated. There is no boundary in between them. The cytoplasm are being connected. And this endoplasmic reticulum, most often they are continuous with the membrane of the nucleus. And we have two types of endoplasmic reticulum. We have the rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum, it is having a ribosome on it, while the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, it has no ribosome on it. Function of the endoplasmic reticulum: one, it is responsible for synthesis of protein, more the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And two, it is responsible for synthesis of lipid, more the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And next we have is the mitochondria, which is the plural form of mitochondrion. It is an oval or rod shape surrounded by a double membrane. It is not round as we have in ribosome and other structures that they are round. In here, it is an oval or rod shaped structure. And in some cases, they call it a sausage shaped structure. Depending on what you like, you can take any one of them. The inner membrane is folded to form partition called cristae, which projects into the inside of the mitochondrion. Now, this is the first membrane here that is oval in structure. And in here, the inner membrane here, you can observe it is folded inside. This increases the surface area for absorption. The function of the mitochondrion: it serves as a site for energy production. It is the powerhouse of the cell. It is the one that provides energy for all the chemical reactions that is happening within the cell. Next we have is the ribosome. The ribosome, they are round in structure and they are found on the walls of rough endoplasmic reticulum. Just like I explained that the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they have ribosome that is being attached to it. But we have some of these ribosomes that they are found suspended in the cytoplasm. They are not attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the function of these ribosomes is that they help in protein synthesis. And we have the Golgi apparatus. After the ribosome have synthesized the protein, it is the Golgi apparatus that helps in the processing, packaging, and distributing the proteins and lipid. This Golgi apparatus, it is a stack of membrane-bounded sacs. What does that mean, stack? It means they are lying on top of one another. This one is on this one, this one is on this one, this one is on this one, this one is on this one. And I said they are responsible for processing, packaging, and distributing proteins and lipids within the cell. Also, they help to produce lysosomes. These lysosomes, they are just like our white blood cells. They help in defense against bacteria, viruses, and toxic substances. In fact, these lysosomes, they help to destroy worn out organs or repair tissues. For example, if a part of a plant has become diseased, they have tried to defend it and they are unable to defend it. What they do They will take that part off from the plant by destroying it up or causing it to dry up so that that disease will not transfer to other parts of the plant in order to destroy the whole plant. They can sacrifice that part. That function is being done by lysosome. These lysosome, just like I said, they are produced by Golgi apparatus and they contain powerful hydrolytic enzymes. So in the case of drying up the plant, since they are powerful hydrolytic enzymes, they will just break down the water molecules in the plant, which will cause the plant to dry up. And we have the vacuum. This vacuum, it contains a fluid that we call cell sap. The cell sap, it is being surrounded by a single membrane that we call tonoplast. This is the tonoplast here. The vacuoles we have in animal cell is slightly differ with the one we have in plant cell. The animal cell is having many but very few vacuoles compared to those of plant cell. The plant cell is having few but large vacuoles. The vacuole in animal cells, they are temporal, but those in plant cells, they are permanent. The vacuoles, whether they are in plant cell or animal cell, they perform the same function. They are responsible for regulation of substances within the cell. So if the plant cell is having too much of water, what will happen? The vacuum will absorb this water into it so that it will not affect the normal functioning of the cell. It can also do it likewise for other substances which may want to affect the normal functioning of the cell. And we have the chloroplast on this slide. It is oval in shape, just like we have in mitochondrion. It is bounded by double membrane. But in here, the inner membrane is not folded to form crystal, just like we have in mitochondrion. The inner membrane, it encloses a semi-gel-like fluid called stroma. We have stroma in different organelles, for example, mitochondrion. So if you are going to label a stroma, you can say stroma of the chloroplast, stroma of mitochondrion, just as the case may be. It has a collection of membranous sacs called thylakoids. On this slide, you can see the thylakoid here. One of these green structure we have there is what we call thylakoid. They are in a stack-like form. That means they are lying on top of one another. And one group of these thylakoid is what we call granum. The plural form of it, like all of this one, we can call it grana. So the thylakoid arranged in stacks known as grana. That is the plural form of granum. The chloroplast, it is found within the thylakoid. So the pigment that is responsible for the green coloration of the leaf, that is responsible for photosynthesis, it is found within the thylakoid. That's why we say here, it is the site for process of light reactions of photosynthesis. So the light reaction stage of photosynthesis, it is occurring within the thylakoid of the chloroplast. While the dark reaction stage of photosynthesis, it is occurring within the stroma of chloroplast. Next on our slide is the nucleus. The nucleus, it is spherical in shape with a double membrane called the nuclear membrane. This differentiates eukaryotic cell from other cells like eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. The prokaryotic cells, their nuclear material is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. They are just floating within the cytoplasm. In the case of eukaryotic, in fact, they are not having a nucleus. This nuclear membrane that they are having, it separates them from the rest of the other cytoplasmic content. The nucleus also contain what we call the nucleolus. This nucleolus produce what we call messenger ribonucleic acid mRNA, and it has chromatin. This chromatin, it consists of DNA and a protein called histone. It has a jelly-like fluid that is called nucleoplasm. Within the membrane, it is having a pore we call the nuclear pore. It is through this pore that the messenger ribonucleic acid mRNA will pass through, and even other substances. When they want to get into the nucleus, they pass through this pore. When they want to get out of the nucleus, they pass through that pore as well. As we have on this slide, for exchange of substances between the nucleus and its surroundings. This slide here, we have the plant cell, we have the animal cell, and in here you can see a list of structures here that are found in between the two. These are the structures that both the plant and the animal cell are having. So if you are being asked to give similarities, you can say both of them have the following: 1 ribosome, 2 lysosome, 3 nucleus, 4 nucleolus, 5 mitochondrion, etc. And you can see we have 2 here on this side here, and we have 3 here on this other side here. This one that we have on the side of the plant cell, it is only plant cell that is having them. So you can say plant cell, it has ameloblast, the cells that it used to store starch. And we have the chloroplast that is responsible for photosynthesis. It is also found only in plant cell. And we have cell wall. It is found in plant cell, not in animal cell. But in the case of animal cell, we have the centrolase that is found only in animal cell, not in plant cell. We have microtubules that is found only in animal cell, not in plant cell. So you have to pause, look at this diagram, and try to label it by yourself. If you listen well and you want to know how far you have understood this topic, you have to look at these past questions and try to answer them. You can pause and answer them. Thank you.